Alright, YouTube, today in embarrassing things that the lamestream legacy media doesn't really want to talk about. It looks like Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, Podesta, and some of his friends and cronies and allies were talking about needy Latinos, specifically, I guess, public officials who happen to be Hispanic, who wanted to talk to Clinton for some reason, get her to campaign for them, get a kickback, give them a donation, whatever the case may be. To her, they're needy Latinos. And according to Podesta, Bill Richardson's a dick, too, which is really funny. I can see this going over well in conjunction with her quips about Catholic voters. Yeah, I can see this going over really, really well. By the way, I'll point out to people something that they appear not to have noticed. Polls change over time. When Trump was peaking there for a while and was above Hillary, a lot of Trump fans said, aha, he's unstoppable now, he'll never fall back down, and said, oh, Clinton should just drop out, she's done for. Now that the roles have reversed and Clinton is leading, of course, you've got the same crap going on. There is still more than enough time. You only need really a week for any specific set of bad news to set in to really cripple a candidate. I'd point out also the difference between the mainstream media heavily covering sexual abuse allegations against Trump versus the mainstream media largely ignoring all of the WikiLeaks materials and everything by O'Keefe and so forth, and not reporting on it at all if they can help it, or calling it a Russian conspiracy if they do. The difference is that allegations and speculation are totally up for debate as to whether they're true or not. Most people understand this. Whereas the WikiLeaks dumps are not up for speculation. They are true. They do come from the Clinton campaign. Hillary Clinton herself at the second presidential debate helpfully confirmed this by referring to them as stolen materials rather than decrying them as fraud or fraudulent. Fraudulent. Fraudulent or forgeries. I made up a new word. I think I'm turning into Trump or something here. Yeah, I would like to think that those materials that we know are true. Tim Kaine pretended that they weren't. Literally the next day is when Clinton said, oh, well, these Russian hackers trying to stop. So in other words, they are real, these emails. You're not proclaiming them not to be. You're proclaiming them to be stolen as the result of a conspiracy, but you're not saying that the content is actually wrong. It's a little bit telling. The Trump campaign's response to these allegations is, oh, they're completely and totally false. Which is easy to do because at least two of these claims appear to be from the 80s and to have been revived, dug up by the New York Times solely to craft a hit piece based on material that might have originally appeared in something roughly akin to the Weekly World News. So there is that. But it's much more damaging when a campaign appears to systemically refer to people who are minorities or in certain voting blocks. You've got Bill Clinton called all Trump voters rednecks. Clinton called them irredeemable. So that's a problem. They said Catholic voters are superstitious. They don't want to be evangelicals because they have rich friends, and evangelicals are superstitious and silly. Now they're calling anyone in a public position who's Hispanic who wants their help needy. Which it just rubs people the wrong way. It's the intonation more than what's actually being said. Calling Bill Richardson a bit of a dick is probably not the greatest idea under the sun either, considering, I think, wasn't he governor of New Mexico? Kind of a critical state for. At this point, the Clinton campaign is literally on the ropes. I'm going to make a video about this too, before people begin to lose hope. I realize a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm a Trump fan, but now I expect him to lose. A lot of those people aren't actually Trump fans. You do realize that those are paid posters, correct? I've been monitoring this crap for months. A lot of them are CTR shells. They're being paid to post that sort of stuff. It's a demoralization tactic and nothing more. You infiltrate a group of Trump's people have done this to Clinton fans also. They did it heavily, when he was riding his peak. It's just par for the course, honestly. The difference being, of course, most of Trump's support is an organic movement comprised of actual people who actually might react to such propaganda, whereas most of the people posting online in support of Clinton outside of like a Politico post or being liberal or something, they're not even Clinton fans, they're simply paid posters. Clinton doesn't have nearly as large or active a fan base. It's quite clear, especially online, that that's the case, which is one of her biggest weaknesses, honestly. The media can pretend that decades-old allegations that were never corroborated, never followed up with, and were dug up as a hit piece are valid material to report upon. But it's beginning, I think, to independent voters to look a little bit conspicuous that they won't touch, Clinton, her campaign manager talking about the needy Hispanics and the superstitious evangelicals and the dishonest Catholics, or Bill Clinton ranting about rednecks and then referring to himself as one, which is quite funny. He's not a redneck, he's a blue blood. People just don't quite realize that it's part of their mythology that they've crafted around themselves, really. I can't see this ending well, though, for Hillary, because each day we're getting more leaks, and they are getting worse. The Catholic thing, especially with the idea of Podesta attempting to literally infiltrate the Catholic Church to change their political discourse, that's, has the Pope weighed in on this? Is the Pope going to point this out, or is he going to continue to pretend that his biggest enemy is Trump because he wants to build a wall or limit illegal immigration or something like that? I think that he'll have some soul-searching to do. Not that I expect it would have any result. He's a tired old man who runs basically a mafia co-opted corporation. That's what the Vatican, at least, has devolved into. We've seen the pre-sex abuse crap. I'm no fan of the Catholic Church myself. I just don't pretend that all Catholics would be evangelicals if they didn't have rich friends, because I think that's an unhinged way to look at the situation. I think Podesta is unhinged. Somebody hacks his Twitter. That was really funny. O'Keefe gets his Twitter suspended, apparently, or he's locked out permanently or whatever. It doesn't matter. Make a new Twitter or just ignore Twitter and use better sites. Everyone should get off of Twitter. Leave it wilting. Let it turn into nothing more than a left-wing echo chamber, and it won't last very long, because it won't have any effect upon public discourse. It's the best way forward, really, to punish Twitter for algorithmic manipulation and for all the outright censorship that they do, really. It'll be funny to see as people in the Clinton campaign. We also had, I should point this out, because it kind of relates to the media. Huma Abedin years ago apparently also was talking with Podesta and asked whether maybe Hillary shouldn't just ignore questions from the media and just blow them off completely and pretend that the media doesn't even exist. Now, this appears to have switched to a strategy of rather the Clintons paying the media to just softball them. But it is kind of telling in the context of all this other stuff here. It looks like people within the Clinton campaign were honestly nervous about things that she had said and done, things Bubba Bill had said and done, things others had said and done years ago, which isn't surprising to me, even slightly, honestly. Especially when you have their campaign manager rambling about all of these different subgroups of people. What sense does it make to even offhand make a comment that could even be considered by anybody to be disparaging to Hispanics or Hispanic voters when it's one of your key voting blocks, especially in, half a dozen of these swing states? I half expect to see WikiLeaks dump an email where Podesta is drunk and rambling about, watermelon and grape drank, and how they should hand it out at a fundraiser in Detroit or something, honestly. It's that insensitive. It's funny. Here you've got like the PC left talking about how insensitive everyone who's not like a card-carrying Democrat is, and this is the way that they're talking about people. It's fantastical at this point this is happening. But I don't expect Clinton's campaign, regardless of how much collusion with the mainstream media she has, you can't weather it forever. Because they're getting more damaging literally by the day. They're getting more numerous by the day. It's going to be a never-ending stream of leaks, of scandal, until the election. For weeks and weeks it's going to drag on. The only lull will be right after the third presidential debate, which she probably won't perform well in. Trump knocked it out of the park at the second debate. I'd point out one final thing here before I go on to the next video. Trump got a boost from the second presidential debate. Those people proclaiming his campaign dead because of his sex comments from years ago didn't wait for the polls to update. Literally the next day was the second presidential debate, which they probably presumed Trump would fail at. I was worried myself that he would mumble through it. Essentially, he'd be looking a little bit more subdued like at the first debate. He didn't do that. It looks like he got a bump that was large enough from that debate so that it almost made up all of the lost ground from the tape being dropped. And these fantastical reports of Clinton magically being 15 points ahead are no more true now than they were the last time Clinton was ahead, where BI and all these other groups, Business Insider, by the way, I'm sure is sucking her tit for money too, post, oh, well, she's 14 points ahead, she's won now. Well, no, she's not. She's about 4 points ahead in the aggregate. Use an aggregate. And then question whether the polling methodology at this point even necessarily makes sense. Most of the polling firms are independent. So even if they do show Clinton 10 points ahead, I say there's a possibility that they're right. But if CNN or NBC releases a poll, I discount them completely at this point. Because now I have WikiLeaks telling me that it is certain, not speculated, but an absolute certainty, that those particular firms are literally taking her money and suppressing negative stories about her. Therefore, I have to assume, maybe they did screw with their polling methodology. It's entirely possible. Maybe it's all an attempt to simply demoralize Trump fans so much they don't show up at the polls because they're worried that turnout will be, 10 points higher for his fans and that he'll win the election by default as a result of this. It's possible that's the case. I think it'd be an insane strategy. I don't think it would work. I think it'll have the opposite effect. But we have to consider that a vague possibility. That being said, I still don't rant about rigged polls. It doesn't matter whether it's LA Times, Rasmussen, Quinnipiac, any of them, other than the CNN or NBC polls. I will ignore them from now on because I know that I can't trust necessarily them to be actual unbiased polls. The rest of them, whether they show Clinton up or Trump up in any given state or nationally, yeah, I'm going to assume that that's an appropriate part of the aggregate. I don't care about skewing for Democratic turnout, skewing for independent. That doesn't faze me in the least. Maybe you're proven right. Maybe Trump's 20 points ahead right now and we just don't know it. Okay, well then we'll see in November. But to operate from that assumption is a bad idea because it's mathematically less likely than that the polls are gravitating somewhere around fair. There's probably is going to be a point or two of bias in one direction or the other. Other than that, though, and we don't know in which direction that would be, which is the other point. Other than that, and the CNN or NBC polls, yeah, I'm going to accept RCP generally as being the more accurate reading of what's going on. More accurate, yes, than the LA Times rolling average that has Trump several points ahead. Okay, maybe they're right. It's not without the realm of possibility. But RCP has come through for me before. I'm going to keep using it. And right now, Clinton, in my estimation, is ahead. But will she remain ahead? I don't think so. I think it's very unlikely, and that leads us directly into the next video. Oh, look at that. How wonderful. That's about all. Peace out.